Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by MediaClip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Ricardo Ghekiere, who's the founder and CEO of BetterPic. And Ricardo is coming to us from Belgium today. Ricardo, you've got some actual news. I mean, not only are you a startup in the AI portrait space, but you just got some funding. Before we get into that, let's talk about you and how you started this company.
Yeah, hi, and thank you for having me, by the way, calling in from Belgium, where we have beautiful weather as usual. But yeah, the company was started before me, to be transparent. So it was already started in July-ish 2023 by my co-founder and CTO, Miguel. And then in December 2023, funny enough, or just before that, I got a newsletter from the Side Projectors. I've been following this company for a while. They basically announce companies for sale in which you can acquire, basically. Because I'm a horrible coding guy. Like, I tried coding, it's bad. So I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to compete in this space. So I need to do something else. So I saw it passing by, and it was AI headshots. The company was for sale for about 20,000 euros. And I was like, okay, I still got that in my pocket. Let's have a look. And, once I started digging deeper into the space, I was like, hey, if the technology does or says, does what it says it does, which is, taking professional headshots for just a couple of selfies for, $30, this is massive. Like, it's a massive opportunity, right? Because everybody in the world at some point needs a headshot. And we all know the hassles of, going to a photographer, trying to dress up. For ladies, you have to do the makeup. There's a heating lamp in front of you. I did a photo shoot yesterday. There's trying to not do this awkward smile. I'm just like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here. So I saw that. I was like, wow, this could be a massive opportunity coming in. I think I met Miguel. He was in Spain. I was in Spain. We drove 2 hours to each other. We actually, had a great connection. And from there, I just made an offer and said, hey, I want to purchase it for $1 and see if you're up for it. And of course, his first reaction was like, hey, wait, I said $20,000, not $1, basically. So yeah, I just explained in my philosophy saying, hey, you know what? If you join me as CTO and I'll, lead the company, I'll make sure that your shares are worth a lot more than the 20,000 euros that you're asking me today, which I think with the fundraising that we just did is proven, I would say.
So what was your background before getting into this? Were you in the imaging industry or were you more of a...
Absolutely not. Like every single business that I founded, I had no prior experience to it. So the first company I founded was renting out student furniture, so I failed. Then I started a coffee bar. I didn't even know how to make a cappuccino. I had to teach myself on YouTube how to actually make a proper cappuccino, basically. I launched cocktail boxes. I knew nothing about cocktails. So that's why I was like, hey, let's make a cocktail box. So every single business that I ever started, I knew nothing about the space. And, back in the days, I saw that as oh my God, I can't do this kind of thing. Nowadays, I see it as a massive competitive advantage because you're having this outside look into the space versus having this very close-minded look. Is like, this is how it's supposed to be, and it's always how it has been done, basically. So now I see it as a competitive advantage growing up in that sense.
So did you do any research into the corporate headshot space, or was just an instinctual gut level thing you saw that, you've been around, you see everybody's got it on their homepages and on their LinkedIn and all this, so they think, oh, they need that. Was that where it came from, or did you do, the market is such and such in Europe for headshots?
Yeah, so I did two things, right? Or two major things. One is, of course, I call it in Dutch, they call it boerenverstand, which is farmer's brain for some reason, which translates very weirdly if you put it that way. But it's like gut instinct, you would almost translate it. It's like you have a gut instinct of okay, just basic calculation would say there's, that many billion people in the world. There is that many people graduating, applying for CVs where you'll need a headshot for. You have LinkedIn being a massive platform. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to think about, okay, this is actually a big market in that sense. And then, of course, the second thing which we've done is I had a marketing agency up till, 2 months ago, which was recently sold. And so I had a marketing agency and asked my people, like, okay, by the way, I want you to research this market. I want you to do keyword research about how many people are looking for this. How fast is this market growing? Like, if AI headshots is about, I think back in the days, it was 2,000 people looking at for every single month. Before the year before was like 200. So it's like, okay, that's a 10x. And to give you an idea, today, that's about 54,000 keyword researches or keywords that are being triggered. So I'm like, okay, wow, market is growing, but it's still very limited. And if the technology says what it says, I was like, okay, that's great. Then we have something that we can sell in that sense. So we did a lot of research, but not, we didn't hire a firm to do like market
Right. Yeah.
research about what could this market be in that sense.
So how did your perception of the market change, or did it, from your initial research? Did you think it was bigger, smaller, slower, faster moving, or
I
did it
underestimated
reaffirm
it.
what you already knew?
So I bought it the 1st of December 2023. And, I come from leading teams of like 100 people. And it's like, I need to put some OKRs, some goal settings. It's like, okay, what's the big ambition that we want to do? So we said, okay, 2024, we want to hit a 50,000 per month by the end of the year. And everybody's like, you're crazy. Because we were doing 1.5K per month, right?
Right.
So we're like, we're at 1.5K. The big hairy goal is 50,000 per month. And then somewhere October 2024, we're like, okay, we're already hitting close to 70K.
Right.
This is crazy. And so by December 2024, we actually hit around 114K goal per month. I was like, okay, I definitely underestimated this market way too much. And
Right.
so I was like, I'm not going to make the same mistake for 2025. I'm going to put the goal at 2 million. 2
Okay.
million yearly revenue. And I was like, oh, that would be crazy. And to give you an idea, we're now projected to do about 3 million and even more than that. So it's like I underestimated it again. So maybe 2026 will be different.
Well, that's great. So before we get too more into the market, can you describe a little bit about what BetterPic is and what the product offerings are? Because you kind of have a couple things, right?
Yeah, so the first product we launched was BetterPic, which is quite straightforward product. You, instead of going to the photographer back like you would do back in the days, you come to a website, you upload some random selfies you have from you going to the Bahamas or to any location you want, or you can take them on the spot. You give us about 8 selfies, and within 30 minutes, we are going to give you professional headshots back, around 60 or 220 that you're going to get back. You select a few, and that's about it. It's a very simplistic product, which is very hard to manage, but it's a very simplistic product to explain mostly. The second product we just recently launched is the exact same technology, but then for a much larger market, which is the fashion industry market. Because
Okay.
the fashion industry market has the exact same problem as we've been trying to solve for 2 years, which is, well, I've got this product now, but I'm waiting for my photographer to come in. It's quite a cost, and a makeup artist needs to come in. I need to book a model that comes in. So we're just replacing the entire flow with real models that we take digital twins from. So that means like an AI version of them, but from a real person. And we're going to dress them on the fly. So you don't actually have to fly your model in anymore to New York. You can actually have that person digitally so far.
So well, I think one of your competitors for that product would be the AI generated people, right? There's a couple people out there who are doing that, are saying you don't have to have that digital twin. We just create it on the fly. And if you want to adjust the features and on the fly, you can do that. What is the advantage of your product versus going with the generative AI route completely?
100%. So, by the way, we also do the AI generated. So we do both, but our main strength and focus is on translating real people, real models into the digital world.
Mhm.
And so the advantage is that actually came very clear last week when Vogue actually launched in their paper version. They launched an AI model inside the book, basically. And the whole world actually went crazy. It was all over the news, and even into Belgium, it was like going crazy. And so we actually got interviewed through the media in Belgium because of like, what the hell is going on here? And the whole world was exploding. And there was a huge backlash
Right.
against Vogue around that. And then suddenly brands were like, okay, we want the efficiency of AI, but we don't want the backlash of these AI generated
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
models.
Yeah.
And so now we got a huge amount of influx of big companies like, okay, we want this efficiency, but we want the real models and we want to compensate them in the real way,
Right.
basically. So that's the advantage of working with us in that sense.
Because that's an interesting point is, a lot of people think of AI as a, one-to-one replacement for people, or it's gonna, drastically eliminate jobs. And, it will. I'm obviously for certain things, it's certainly, but it's certainly, for certain things that are high profile. Fashion covers, you wouldn't want to see open up Vogue and have the big fashion spread, have it all be AI generated. But for a catalog of people, you're just selling, shirts and things, and it's just an e-commerce application. That may be an absolute appropriate application.
100%. Like for that's the best example I always give is like we have, so funny enough, our main investor, one of the larger angels, is
Mhm.
actually a model agency. So a model agency invests in us and she's digitizing the 2000 models that comes in, which is always weird when she jumps on a call with a prospect that we have. Is like, but wait, you're the model agency owner and we're talking to you, we're trying to get rid of you. So it's a
Right.
very funny conversation. But it's like
Yeah, well, I don't know. I
but
mean, honestly, I think the agency will morph into more of a technology broker, probably.
oh, 100%, 100%. So this is the funny part where like now we're just collaborating with the model agencies. It's like, okay, they see them as like an add-on versus like a threat. And
Yeah.
that's also how we want to be perceived is like we're here to help the model agencies and help the brands actually push things forward. And her best example, which I always remember, is every single week there is a guy going from Belgium to Berlin, flying in, trying on 120 to 150 clothes on in about 2 hours window and just goes on off and he's like he just get red rashes on his skin because of that and I was
Right.
like
Yeah.
that's exactly what you don't want to be doing. What you want to be doing is having these models create the experiences, the events, all of these really cool stuff, not the I'm going to take off a swimming short every single 2 minutes and getting
Yeah.
rashes on my clothing.
Sure. And also the face of that model can actually become a digital asset that they can monetize.
100%. Yes. It's just like in the real world. You book a model, you get the licensing fee for about a year. So all of that stuff is now just digitalized in our world.
Because I think the appetite for images is only going to increase. So the logistics of flying that person from Belgium to Germany or wherever is not going to be able to keep up with the demand for images that's going to be happening.
100%. And we also have some clients who's like, you know what? Back in the days, we had to choose for certain products, we will not do images, and for certain things, we will do images.
Hmm.
And nowadays, you can just do the entire, entire e-commerce with images at scale at, a half of that cost, basically. And that's where it becomes interesting to operate.
Now, there might be some issues with like the use of images. Have you run into cases where, a model doesn't want their image used with a certain product or anything like that? How do they control that?
Very good question. So it is controlled in the exact same way as it is controlled in the real world. So in the real world, it's not the model that chooses the brands. It is the model agencies that handles that. That's also why they're part of the fee in that sense.
Mhm.
So we're actually in direct contact with the model agencies that then will associate the brands and they already know it's like, hey, this person's not made for this brand. So it's mostly the model agency that know the exact same workflow. That's also why we collaborate with them, not the models. Well, we also collaborate with the models to get the digital twins.
Sure.
But it is actually our contracts is with the model agencies in that
Right.
sense. And so the funny thing is the legal framework is a very tricky one, and especially because of Europe handling. And so we actually had to work with huge amount of law firms, and now we have these contracts in place to
Mhm.
run that playbook because it's a very touchy thing. It's like who owns the rights for how long.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we've actually legalized the entire thing. And so when clients work with us, they know that they're working in a legal framework that fits with them.
Because that is one of the things that, at least in the US, they've determined that AI can't own anything, right? So the question is, if you're using a composite image with, a digital twin, but you're generating everything else, or vice versa, how much of that is copyrightable or ownable or trademarkable or whatever the phrase you want to use? I don't
Yeah.
know, is the
Actually,
question.
there is rules around that, and one of the rules is that you own your eyes. That is actually one of the rules. So
Okay.
if the eyes change, the person changes. But if the eyes remain the same, so it's your eyes, that's you, basically. So there are certain
Wow.
rules that are attached to this, and this is why we went through this whole legal thing to discover this. Is that when the eyes is one of
Wow.
their bigger assets that is owned to you, basically. Even in Denmark right now, there's laws passing by that that you are the owner of you.
Right.
I don't think you have that yet in the States, but in Denmark, you actually have these laws, and I believe these laws will come a lot bigger in Europe over the coming months, even.
So let's talk a little bit about that, the difference between European sensibilities when it relates to this and North American sensibilities when they came with this. Because North America is a little bit, especially the United States, is a little more of the Wild West in this. Whereas, the European community is definitely a little more cautious and a little more legislative. We'll use the word for that. So being based in Europe, does that give you an advantage, do you think?
I'll give you a backstory basically. So when with BetterPic, currently our revenue is 90, well, let's say 85% is coming from the States.
Right.
5% is like Canada and the UK and Australia, and like maybe 5% is European basically. And
Right.
it's very funny because we're like, okay, is it just because we don't run campaigns there, or is it something else? So we got the research and we're looking at the keywords that people type in, which is AI headshots, and then I kind of map that across the globe. And it just correlates exactly with the amount of people looking for that specific keywords towards the revenue, basically. And it's just because AI is just much more adopted in the States. And
Mhm.
then it kind of flies over to Europe like 2 years later. And then it even depends on the country. We always make the jokes that America's 5 years ahead in terms of AI, and then it comes to like Holland and France later on, and then UK, and then Belgium is like 2 years even later. So that's always the funny joke that I always make, and so that's exactly what's happening on the AI headshots thing. Now, for the second company, BetterStudio, we said we're going European first because if you can tackle Europe, you can conquer the rest. Not the other way around. If an American company would come in, they would have to get all these questions about, okay, what about the legislation? Have you thought about the Belgium legislation? But in Belgium, we have French legislation and and Dutch legislation. So there's all these things like, oh yeah, never mind. Let me stick to the States, basically.
Right.
So we went first, like European first, legislation first, and from there we're expanding.
And you guys have better taste over there when it comes to fashion, so that's probably a better place to
That
start.
is actually very true as well. Don't want to shout anything, but it's just a kind of proven based on the amount of brands that are coming from Europe versus the States.
So let's talk a little bit about the funding piece, because that's really been the big news in the last week or so, is that you just got a big seed round. Can you talk a little bit about what it took to get that into place, the story you had to tell to convince folks that, hey, this is not just another one of those kind of AI advancements that, it seems like there's a lot of those out there, right? That's where the money is going in AI and people are just looking for it.
100%. So funny enough, I tried raising around 1 year ago, exact timing, 1 year ago, and that was for the product BetterPic back in the days. And still, I was like, okay, want to raise some funds with it. This is needed. This is the graph. So I made the whole slide deck. And I actually didn't succeed. So I was like, oh, damn it. It's like everybody's just telling me no, basically.
Why was that? Did they just not see the market potential? Or there's 1,000 other choices, so why bother? Or what was the
So I
concern?
think there's two main reasons that we always got, let's say, rejected on. And the first one is this is a one-time purchase, so you only get a one-time headshot, it's a one-time purchase, so it's not recurring behavior, so it's very unpredictable in that sense. And then the second thing is like every investor always asks, but what about in 5 years? Well, how will this business be in 5 years from time? And what will ChatGPT do if you can just upload a few images there and get your headshots there, basically? So That was the always the comeback that we got, which is a very legitimate question in that sense.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when we started the second business, which is very much B2B, high tickets, working with these bigger brands, is like, okay, well, here you have something recurring, you have something that you can actually build a long-term business with because you're integrated into their system. So the moment we actually had more of the B2B layer to it, that's when, the investors actually got excited about what the future that we're building, basically. So hence where the funding is going to, because for BetterPic, we didn't need the funding. We were growing every single month. We were profitable. We were fully bootstrapped. So we didn't actually need the funding for BetterPic, but we decided just to accelerate on the B2B offerings.
Mhm. And how much did you have to give up in terms of equity or whatever? I know you don't have to go into a straight percentage, but you did have to bring, did you have to have a board formed or what's the relationship with the investors?
Yeah, so it's all raised through safe notes in that sense. So we didn't have to like spend a lot of money on like a Series A and lawyers and all that stuff.
Right.
It was just a safe note which we had to negotiate, and that's about it basically. That's also why it went quite fast in that
Mhm.
sense.
So how did you select your investment partners? What was the criteria you were looking for?
Yeah, so we were looking for a partner that believed in a team, not the product in that sense. And so, of course, it's important to understand, what you're building and does it align with the future. But what I really liked is so we got MOC Capital as the first larger investor. They invested about 1 million. And so they're like, I just believe in a team. The guy even like the one of the investors actually flew into Italy. We were there with like the whole team. We do 6 months, every 6 months, we actually catch up. Now we're going to Barcelona. And he flew in, he spent a day with us just to get to know the team, understand the dynamics, what we're happening, what we're building. And the day after, he actually is like, okay, this is the team that's going to make it happen, basically. So we were really looking forward to somebody that said, okay, I really believe in the team that is going to happen. And the execution you'll see along the way. You'll make pivots, you'll make changes along the product. You'll like, okay, that doesn't work. Let's make something
Yeah.
else. But he really believed in the team. And that's also why we decided to first go with MOC Capital because we could see that they were really team players. And they even like called five of my closest friends and ex-colleagues to like say, hey, is this guy legit or not? So you could really sense that all their questions were pointed towards how is this person really versus what are they building in that sense.
Did you think your track record of having done some prior businesses, had some success, had some failure, do you think that helped you in building the relationship with the kind of investor you wanted?
I would say yes. And not just from a, hey, this is my track record, but your track record says a lot about your personality that you have at that moment.
Mhm.
And so you could tell that we just had a conversation about, okay, failure, things that didn't go well. How do you adapt to that? How do you crunch through like bad situations? Having failure, I think is a good thing. So I think it really helped. And my motto is always like, as long as you don't give up, you can't lose.
Right.
And so that has always been the case. And they always see like BetterPic as like this overnight success. It's like, hey, they went from like 0 to like 3 million in 18 months. Wow, crazy. But I'm like, this is like an 11-year journey. My first business was 11 years ago.
Right.
And so there's no overnight success here. There's just like grinding and keeping it going until you hit the spot, basically. It's
Right.
like going for oil, right? Is like, there's no like, let's dig here and see if this something sticks. You just keep digging for 11 years, you'll find something.
So do you see Better Pick with both products? Do you see it as an AI company or as a imaging solutions company? Because I think that perspective helps bring you to the future.
Yeah. So I think so we're an AI company in that sense, or an AI image company. The reason why I'm saying not AI company, not an AI image company is because we don't build foundational models. Like there's these foundational models like ChatGPT or, Flux, like there's all these foundational models. They cost millions. We're not that. We are what we call a base layer on top of that. We're thinking about use cases like, okay, how would a person use this? What's the interface look like for that? So we're basically building on top of these foundation models with our tweaks. Let's call it like that. An
Yeah.
example tweak could be, hey, these foundational models don't think that when you shoot an e-commerce image and the
Right.
person wants to have clothing all the way to the bottom of so you don't see the shoes. Well, foundational model doesn't understand that, so we need to build that into the
Oh,
product.
yeah,
So
yeah.
these are like small tweak examples that you need to do to operate in this scale.
Because it's always, I think, especially with what you're doing, the little things that matter, right? If you're doing, if you're inserting a head onto a sweater, like that's got to be precisely accurate. You can't be
100%.
a little bit off because people
Oh,
don't
that's a
notice
hundred
it.
percent. That's the biggest struggle of all these foundational models. Like in AI headshots, it's like, okay, the face needs to look exactly like you, but if the clothing is a little bit off, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But in these AI photo shoots, every single detail matters. Like how many buttons do you have? How does that button look like? How does the fit look like? It
Right.
is crazy how that world works, and I think it's the hardest challenge I've ever worked on, and
Mhm.
a team has ever worked on. But it's such a grateful thing when your products that you shop go online. Like we have some online right now. It's like, oh, that was us. Great.
Do you ever like walk through downtown and see something that your technology has done, like on a bus or a billboard, and go kind of feel proud about that?
We haven't had the offline billboards because most of the time they're still like not AI generated. I don't
Yeah,
think we
yeah,
got to that stage yet. I do see like if you go to reviews for BetterPic, I love that because it's like people just saying, "Hey, I did this for my dad who didn't have a job for 5 years and I was building his CV and I got the solution. I was finally able to get a headshot for them because it
yeah,
was too
yeah,
expensive in my country." It's
yeah.
like that's the beautiful moments where like, "Hey, we're really making an impact into the world of people."
Right. So if people are interested in checking out your company, the Better Group is the company, right? And getting more information about what it is you do, where can they go online to find out?
Awesome. So yeah, for the AI headshots, definitely go to betterpic.io. That's where we do all the AI headshots. And then the second company is called betterstudio.io, is where you can actually, launch campaigns for your, fashion e-commerce brands.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ricardo. It's been great meeting you and talking with you and kind of picking your brain about AI and the potential of it in the photography and the fashion industry. And looking forward to hearing more. Thank you very
No
much.
worries. Thank you very much, Gary. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.